Welcome to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast. This podcast is dedicated to EAS employees of the U.S. Postal Service and members of the National Association of Postal Supervisors. So, pour yourself a cup of coffee and join us for today's episode. And now, here's your host, Robert Wakefield.
Good morning, Branch 32, and good morning to our EAS friends across the country. Thank you so much for listening, and welcome to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast presented by the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. I'm your host, Robert Wakefield, president of Branch 32. Yes, thank you, studio audience. Thank you. And please be seated. It's great to have you all here. Thank you so much for listening, and let's go ahead and let's pour that first cup. If you are not already a member of the Nashville Post Office Credit Union, why not? Now is the perfect time to join. For every new account opened, you will be entered into a drawing for cash prizes and gift cards. Stop by the Nashville Post Office Credit Union today to get your new account opened. The drawing will be held on December 6th. The Nashville Post Office Credit Union. Visit npocu.org. Well, today on our first cup, we're going to be talking about our series. This is the last part of our series that talks about the benefits of being in NAPS. And in our previous episodes, we covered advocacy. That was the first one we covered, and how important advocacy is, not only from a legislative standpoint, but also headquarters advocates for us as members with the Postal Service, directly with USPS headquarters. So advocacy is a huge thing that takes place, and it's a benefit of being in NAPS. The next one we talked about was one that's probably the most recognizable, even to the non-active members, not a non-member, but those that aren't able to come to meetings, and that's representation. Representation is probably the most visible part of NAPS that we have, is because we are here to protect you. We are here to protect the NAPS members and make sure that you're represented properly. We're not a union. There are no unions for managers in the U.S. Postal Service. But we, as a management association, we use ELM 650 to protect your rights, to make sure that your rights are covered. And one of the other things that we make sure of, it's a benefit, is that through this representation, if you were to get into serious enough trouble that you had to appear before the Merit Systems Protection Board, you have access for free, the Disciplinary Defense Fund. And that's huge, because the other group charges thousands of dollars just to think about sending it to MSPB. And they charge you, their members that. But you don't have that in NAPS. It's a benefit to you for being in. So representation is also a huge one. And then last week we talked about training, and we talked with Brian Wagner, who is really an expert on training. He has all kinds of training things that he can offer. The Zoom into Training program that he offers is great for branches across the country. He's spoken across the country on training and done all kinds of different trainings for our members. But the training part of being in NAPS is the education part. It's the part where we learn what our rights are. It's the part where we learn what the rules and regulations are of the Postal Service. And that's an important part of being in NAPS. And it's a great benefit to being in NAPS. But today, I'm going to discuss my favorite benefit of being in NAPS, my very favorite one, and that is networking. It's, in my mind, this is the best benefit that NAPS has to offer. You know, when you think about it, NAPS has over 28,000 members nationwide, and we are the largest postal management association in the country. It's not even close. We have 268 branches. Now think about that. Across the country, there are 268 branches, and we represent 500 EAS job titles. Now imagine all the different job titles there are in the Postal Service, and NAPS represents every single one of them. So here is this huge network that you can tap into. I don't know 28,000 people. I'll tell you that. But the people that I do know, I met through NAPS. And that is a huge, huge benefit in order to help me do my job. Now, this networking takes on many levels. At the local level, as a member of Branch 32, I've got to know many of the members of this branch and what their jobs were. And because I knew what their jobs were, and because they were in NAPS, I had access to getting my questions answered. If I had a problem with hiring, I would call Valerie. Or if I had issues or questions about the plant, I could always call Tilo. He would know. If I had questions about rural carrier questions, I would call Kevin. And so many people in NAPS has this knowledge that you can tap into, and people can call you as well. And so it's just at a local level, this networking thing is huge. But it doesn't only take place in a local setting. It also takes place at the state level. If you're able to go to a state convention or some kind of seminar and you get to meet people from across the state, you can expand this circle of networking. This network can get from, well, in my case, I met Shiree Green, who is our Cotton Belt area vice president, all the way to Knoxville, where I get to know Kathy Shoemaker and I get to know Robert McMurray. And then I get to know Larry Shropshire in East Tennessee. And even down in Chattanooga, there's Donna Aaron and there's Tom O'Connor. O'Connor. There are people that I have met just through the networking part of NAPS. And then it happens at the national level. You can see all kinds of these networking opportunities at the national level. Going to a national convention is such a fabulous thing. If you've never been to one, you got to go. I started meeting people from all over the country, and these people could help me if I had questions. I met people from Branch 29 out of Cincinnati. They came to a Tennessee State Convention once, about 4 of them, and it was Ted and Gary. They came, and that was like in 2012 maybe. And ever since then, we find each other at a national convention. We're friends. It's amazing. I met Dee Perez at the last national convention. Now, I had emailed Dee about questions about recruitment and membership and how his strategies are working up in the New York area. And I went up and introduced myself and talked to him. And, that's just the cool thing about this networking opportunity is you can meet people and talk to them about issues that you may be having. The cool thing about networking, though, and it's the part that means the most to me, is that when you network with people, you not only network with them and get to talk to them, but this leads to lifelong friendships. Some of the best friends I have ever met, I made it through NAPS. That's why we call it a NAPS family. It's true. That's exactly what it is. When they go to a national convention and somebody walks up to the microphone and says, "Hello, NAPS family," that's what we are. And some of my best friends in the country I've met through this organization. And you just can't beat the fact that networking develops into friendships, because there is nothing better than that. And so I want to encourage you, if you're not a member of NAPS, or if you are a member of NAPS and you've never been to a local branch meeting or a state convention or a national convention, get out there and meet some of these people. Get out there and network with people and develop these lifelong friendships. That's the best thing about it. So the 4 major benefits of being in NAPS, once again: advocacy, representation, training, and networking. I hope that you will send this podcast to any non-member so that they can listen to all these 4 episodes so that they will join your branch. And I appreciate everyone who has done so far that has shared the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast. I really do appreciate that. All right. Well, that was great. And I'm ready for that second cup. Are you stressed over holiday expenses and don't know what to do? Let the Nashville Post Office Credit Union help. We are offering a Christmas loan up to $1,200 at the low rate of 12% for 12 months. Not to mention no payments for 60 days. This offer is valid until January 31st. So stop by our office or visit npocu.org for more information. Okay, for our second cup, you'll need to get out a piece of paper and number 1 to 10. The pop quiz. Didn't you just love that in school? You know, I didn't, because the pop quiz just showed me a lot of times how unprepared I really was. That's why I hated them. I just could not stand a pop quiz. But we're going to have one now because I'm the one that's giving it, and I already know the answers. So that means a lot right there. So I'm going to describe some events that took place, and you tell me what year it was. So here we go. Number 1, William Howard Taft was elected the 27th President of the United States. William Howard Taft. Another thing that happened during this particular year is the first Gideon Bible was placed in a hotel room. Now, I did not look up which hotel that was, and maybe you can look that up and send that to me at SaturdayCupOfJoe@gmail.com. But the first Gideon Bible was placed in a hotel room. And also during this year, 50 supervisors gathered in Louisville in September to form the National Association of Postal Supervisors. Well, if you are a student or a history buff of NAPS at all, that year is 1908. But here's the thing that I'm bringing up. Well, this is why I'm bringing it up today. Because on November the 19th, Branch 32, my home branch, became a chartered member of the National Association of Postal Supervisors. So we are celebrating our 116th birthday on November the 19th. And let me tell you, if you are a branch president or branch officer of any kind, go to the historical part of NAPS website, naps.org, and see when your branch was chartered. Because I tell that to prospective new members. I tell them that we've been around since 1908, and you got to be doing something right if you've been around that long. So I always use that in my sales pitch, so to speak, for prospective members. But 116 years of Branch 32, I will be accepting all of my gifts between 2 and 4 on the 19th. So please send those to me as quick as you can. Happy birthday, Branch 32. And be sure to check out when your branch birthday is on naps.org. All right. So thanks so much for listening to today's Saturday Cup of Joe podcast presented by the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. Now listen, I really need your help. I really do. I need you to listen and share this show with as many people as you possibly can. And let me know what branch you are, what branch is listening to the podcast. I'd love to know that. Send your branch number to SaturdayCupOfJoe@gmail.com. I really would appreciate it. So thank you so much for sharing this podcast with all your friends. Really do appreciate it. I'm Robert Wakefield. And remember, every great weekend starts with a great cup of Joe. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast. Please note that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of Robert Wakefield and do not necessarily reflect the views of the National Association of Postal Supervisors. We welcome your questions and comments. So send those to SaturdayCupOfJoe@gmail.com.